I reintroduced milk products for multiple months now, and it has been kind of a positive thing. Now, at least to my nutrition. I want to say or preface this that I'm not lactose intolerant and I seem to not have any other issues from milk, but I thought in the past that maybe I had some issues from milk, but mostly I think this can be down or pinned down to the fact that I ate milk products with sugar because I couldn't avoid them even though I knew they were bad, and even though before I already had multiple years without sugar, at least added sugar, I couldn't avoid this. Now, I want to span basically a bigger sphere with this, and I don't know if this is a proper phrase, but I want to use it nonetheless. And the bigger thing, I think, is energy and how energy is absorbed. And if we want to now space out and zoom out to our solar system, then the sun is the obvious source of most of our energy on Earth. Now, of course, you also have energy stored in bonds, in chemical bonds, in physical bonds, you could also say. But this energy is, of course, somehow kind of made, you could say. And this energy, or transferred at least, because, well, it depends on how you see the sun and so on and so forth. So the energy mostly comes from the sun. Then it hits the Earth, and I mean, then it has to be transferred into something else. And this something else is, so the first line of energy capture is kind of plants, you could say. The next line is then animals that have evolved to eat these plants in order to basically take, I mean, the animals themselves already also could use the sun. But it seems to be more efficient to eat the things that are basically the plants and that already have absorbed the energy of the sun and also have carried basically the cost of, or the time cost, or the whatever cost is involved to get this into this now more dense form. That is the plant. The animals then eat plants, and then there are animals such as other animals, or also us, that then eat animals. And with milk, I think, at least, so these are basically the different stages. The first one is energy as light. The next one, or not only as light, but also as different electromagnetic waves. Then the next one is these electromagnetic waves, mostly light in this case, captured with plants. And the next thing is then things eating plants. Now there is a thing in between, and this intermediary is if animals want to feed their own. Now, if animals want to feed their own children, or often they are not children called, at least if it's not a human, that is the animal, then what we have is milk. And so milk is kind of, if you think about all the things you could possibly find in a grocery store or in a supermarket, then most of them are either plants, or either something that is made from milk, or are meat, or basically not necessarily meat, but the animals themselves, or anything that comes directly from the animal, basically from the dead animal that has been killed. Now, these are the three different categories, mostly. I mean, there are other things as well, which are minerals and also vitamins, so you can find salt in the grocery store, and it is obviously something we need, but it is not something we take energy from. At least most people probably not usually. And out of these three things, if you pick the one that has kind of is the energy and also the thing that has been not broken down into something that is basically more edible, you could say, then this would be plants. And if you just eat plants, and I tried to eat plants for many years, and also, so I tried to be vegetarian, but as part of this, I tried to also be vegan, kind of, for at least hundreds of days. And within these days, even if I didn't, well, within these days, I often ate a lot. And maybe the solution to this is to just eat something that is energetically more dense. And if you think about, for example, about having the perfect milkshake, then maybe that perfect milkshake was in front of me all along. It's just milk. Evolution already has figured out what is the ideal solution to transferring energy, or also other nutrients, from one body, from one animal to another animal that is living, that is not a plant. Of course, plants are also living, but is also moving around. Plants sometimes are also moving around, let's just say voluntarily moving around, as I don't know the exact definitions of what makes up a plant and what makes up an animal. So if evolution has spent a couple of years perfecting this concept of something that has been of basically trying to transfer this energy and also basically nutrients to something else, which is usually the young, then maybe just having something like milk, even though it's in this case from a cow, and we as humans have evolved, at least some parts of humans seem to have lactose, seem to not have lactose intolerance. So basically the gene that allows us to digest, I think it's lactose, still doesn't turn off after the period of infancy, and then we are able to consume cow milk still. Hasn't turned off, so I have kind of quit the sentence. What I'm trying to say is this: if I just eat plants, then I have to eat many plants. If I eat something that is already optimized, that is already kind of the perfect nutrition, even though it's the perfect nutrition for a young cow, then maybe it's kind of less effort for my body. Now there's also the idea, maybe you want to stress your body with something that is a little bit harder to get. And maybe you're eating foods that are too easy to get. Maybe it's sugar all the time, or maybe it's other refined carbohydrates, etc., etc. And maybe this is also causing an issue. But in terms of me, I ate lots of vegetables, and I tried to get my energy mostly from lentils, from beans, from nuts, which I also added after some time. And it seemed that I just couldn't eat enough all the time. And this probably was also due to the fact that I excluded additionally fat from my diet for the most part, and I also tried to maybe have higher protein, and this just became very complicated. But just taking a look at what other people eat, what is the thing that is in very many other products? It's milk. There is cheese, and there are so many different varieties of cheese. Why? Why are there so many different varieties of cheese? Why is it that we have milk? Why don't we just drink milk? Because if you take milk and then you basically have it in different forms, and we kind of invented different processes for making cottage cheese, for making just curd, for example, which is mostly the protein of milk, for having normal milk, for having milk that is with less fat and only has 1.5 grams of fat per 100 grams, instead of having the 3.5 grams of fat. And why is this the case, that there is so much invention in such a simple product, or such a simple thing such as milk? Probably because it's at least somewhat useful. And so I just began to, again, introduce these into my diet. And even though I thought previously maybe this is also increasing my inflammation and so on and so forth, it has been a very beneficial journey. I mean, if I, for example, am hungry in the evening, I often now just drink milk with curd. Milk is kind of the drink, but then I want to have a little bit of a higher protein diet, so I take additionally milk protein in the form of curd, which I then add to the milk. I also seem to not have any or too many issues with the galactose, which is part glucose and part lactose, I think. So basically one molecule of both seem to make up the milk sugar, which is then galactose. And I seem to not have any issues with it. And I do have lots of digestive issues with many plants. If I eat this plant or that plant or that plant, I am bloated for hours, if not for half a day, or even until the next day sometimes. And with milk, that's just not the case. And it seems to be that this is just a very simple solution, even though there are obviously lots of concerns about this. And this is also the main reason I actually went vegetarian many years ago. It just seemed now, retrospectively, that was maybe a decision that was not informed enough. And maybe I am not able to make this decision ever on a level that would be informed enough to make this decision basically rationally or correctly. Of course, you could just layer this constraint onto yourself, but maybe that's just not a very useful decision if you're trying to optimize your life and your health and so on and so forth.